Hello YouTube and eBay. I present to you today for your consideration one of the most unique, noteworthy automobiles I've had the pleasure of owning. I've probably owned over 30 vehicles in my time over the years, and including a 1967 Ford Galaxy 500 with 26,000 original miles. That was a barn find that I sold last year. You may have remember seeing that auction. The 1972 Ford Gran Torino Sport Q Code, what they called the Cobra Jet that year, which has a lot of unique options on it. Just countless Lincolns from the 70s on up till today. A number of Jaguars, a lot of interesting cars. But this car is just truly special. It's the car that I get the most questions about, the car that everybody asks me about. They want to know about it, or they make the most comments about it. It's a very unique car, very rare car. If you're watching this, you probably know kind of what you're looking at here. This is a Continental Mark II. This is not a Lincoln. This was a Continental, was its own separate mark in 1956 and 57 when the Mark IIs were built. They were placed above Lincoln in the hierarchy of Ford. In fact, they cost about twice what a Lincoln Premier, which was the top of the line Lincoln, would cost during the given years they were produced. They cost $10,000 in 1956 and 57, right around $10,000 was their starting price. Air conditioning was a option, the only option, as these were well-loaded standard. The air conditioning option, I believe, was about $600 for 57. This one, as I say, is a 57. So I think air conditioning was about $595 if I'm getting my number exactly right. This one is numbers matching. I'll demonstrate some of that for you in a little bit. Also, I apologize for all this mess around. I've got it's springtime and just spring cleaning and whatnot, and got a couple different properties I'm working with right now to try to. I've just got stuff everywhere, but so I apologize for the mess in the background, but please bear with me. To begin on this, the Mark II was a very special car. It was built as a halo car for Ford. For example, you would see this car. This car is highly exotic, $10,000 a piece in 57 and 56. Very exotic car. A lot of celebrities had them, whatnot. Especially for an American car, they were just very exotic. And the idea was to show the world, to build the Ford name, and by extent the Lincoln name and Mercury and whatnot too. But to show that they could build a car of the quality of Bentley and Rolls-Royce. And it's kind of a throwback to the pre-war luxury cars. Duesenberg, when I mention that, Duesenberg always comes to mind. I think of this as kind of a modern day, in its time, modern day Duesenberg. And of course it was kind of a stab at Cadillac. obviously with Lincoln and Cadillac being the competitors they were back in the day, to show that they could build a car better than a Cadillac. And of course Cadillac struck back in '57 with the Eldorado Brougham, which was a more expensive car than the Continental Mark II, and was a fine car in its own right, but a completely different approach. If you know the two cars, the Mark II is more subtle, many people say more classy, where the Eldorado Brougham is more flashy and characteristic of Cadillacs of that era. And that's not a bad thing. I actually like both cars, to be honest with you. But being a Lincoln man, as I said, this is not a Lincoln, but being a Lincoln man and a Mark series enthusiast and owner, this is kind of, to me, the holy grail of the Lincoln Mark series, in my opinion. And I think many other people feel the same way. Anyway, well, as far as, while I'm on that, as far as the build quality, these cars, the steel that was used to build these cars was hand selected from the supplier. Ford sent representatives to hand select the steel at the suppliers before it was shipped to the plant to be assembled into the Mark II. The leather is Bridge of Weir leather. It's a famous Scottish leather company and very renowned for its quality. And as you'll see in a moment, this car at its age is the leather is held up very well. I'm sure, in part because of the Bridge of Weir quality, but also because this car only has 22,000 original miles on it. The cars were shipped in fleece-lined covers to the dealership from the factory. That's just a few things. I may cover some more later. But I want to get started on this car. This car, as I said, any Mark II you find is a special car. This one has a little bit extra with it. This was a dealer special order Mark II. It was ordered and delivered to Lowell Halley Lincoln Mercury in West Palm Beach, Florida. It was built February 18th, 1957. It was special ordered with white lucite DuPont paint, which was an extra charge option. As I said earlier, the air conditioning, factory air conditioning, was the only official option on the car that was available on the Mark IIs. And as I said, this one has it. But this lucite white DuPont paint was also an extra charge feature, I guess you could say, since it wasn't listed as an official option. It cost extra. You could consider it an option. I guess you could say it was a special paint. And I'm not exactly sure how much that cost, what the extra charge was exactly for the white lucite DuPont paint treatment. Unfortunately, this car has been repainted at some point in the past. In full disclosure, it is not a very high quality repaint. The wheels, I believe, do have the original paint still on them. It's just a hunch. It does seem to be a different shade of white than the rest of the body. You know, this car has just been, for most of its life, since it was sold in 1957, has just been hidden away from the collector car community. Not much has been known about it. It's obviously not been driven very much, 22,000 miles. It's just, it's not a barn find. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna lie to you and say it's a barn find. If I find a barn find, it's an honest barn find. This was, I guess, more of a garage find, if you will. It's just been hidden away, and you know, a lot of people, most likely a lot of people with the Mark II registry and whatnot, probably thought the car was gone, since it's just not been accounted for. It's just been hidden away all these years. And I actually gave the Mark II registry a little bit of information about this car, what I know about it what I knew about it actually when I purchased it. And I've learned a few more things since then too, thanks in part to the Mark II registry. I have to give them a lot of respect for being a great resource, by the way. Anyway, let's go ahead. I want to show you a few things about this car. Let's see. I've got some, get on the interior here. I've got some stuff in the interior that I kind of want to show. Now, I'll get to showing the interior here shortly. The interior, the seats, I would say, are a 9 out of 10. The interior, overall, maybe an 8 out of 10. While I'm talking, I'll show you the odometer, 21,794 miles, which I believe to be original, based on the seats. Here are the pedals. They, you know, everything needs to be cleaned up, but nothing really shows a whole lot of wear as far as use. The issues with this car come from sitting, and well, I'll get into that too when I cover the body. Again, I'll cover the interior here in a little bit, but not right at this moment. But I do want to say, this is one of the few pieces that are missing off the car that I do not have. The Continental, it would have the Continental emblem here. These are fairly easy to come by. I think Mark II Enterprises makes a reproduction, or you can get a used one. They come up fairly often online, used ones. So I don't think this should be too much of a problem for a buyer to get. Now, bear with me here. I have a lot of stuff here to show you. Move that out of the way. Okay, here we go. Now, this is from ContinentalMark2.com, and this is regarding the identification tag. It has the VIN and whatnot on it. The VIN on this car is C56Q3634. And I'll show you all this in a minute. But this is what most Mark II VIN tags look like. What you're specifically paying attention to is the second line here. And this is what a special order VIN tag looks like. Specifically, that S284 in this example here. Up here, you don't have an S anything. You know, There's more to it than this, but this is the simplest way to show it on video here. But you're, of course, free to do your own research and double check what I'm saying. But anyway, it'll show you here some data plates, also list a DSO. Let's see here. Vast majority follows the formula above, which again is this one here, which is not what this car is, because this car is a DSO, a dealer special order. So here's the format for the DSO. Okay, here's my vent tag, a picture of it, and you see it's D885 S370 1E6L Now the N at the end just means it was built in 1957, or a 57 model. I've gotten confused as to that, whether it's a 57 model or built in 57. I believe the N was just for built in 57. I could be wrong. So the N doesn't really mean anything. We know it's a 57 model. 1E6L. Remember that. And the D, okay, the S370, I need to quickly get out of the way. The S370 is the DSO number. And like in this case, it's S284. Let's see. And it tells you here DSO number is S284. The paint code is D19 in this one here. The paint code on mine is D885 for the white Lucite DuPont. And the 1E6L is the interior trim, which I will get to in just a minute. Now here's your trim as this car would have been from the factory. This is white Lucite DuPont paint. This is the 1E6L. Check it again, 1E6L right here. 1E6L. 1E6L interior. That's white leather seat bolsters with deep gray leather seat biscuits. Again, this is Bridge of Weir leather. And you've got deep gray carpet. And let's see if I can, here's one loose sheet I've got. And you can kind of see that's what the leather's supposed to look like. And that's what we've got. And as far as the deep gray carpeting, hope this shows, because it's the deep gray carpeting has faded a little bit maybe, but you can tell that that's what it started out as, was that carpet. The carpet does need to be replaced, as the floor pans are rusty. I'll go ahead and say that we'll just, for the sake of argument, say that the floor pans need to be replaced. I'm not sure how bad they really are, but we'll say that just to be safe. I've said before, and I'll say again, I'd rather undersell and overdeliver rather than oversell and underdeliver. Because, you know, I don't want to, you know, I'm just trying to be honest with what I've got here, and if you know, if I'm a little bit too honest to the point of being too critical, I'd rather be that way than to say, you know, I've got a perfect car here that's ready to go, you know, doesn't need restoration. You know, I want you to know, you know, what you're possibly getting into here. All right. Next, I want to discuss the engine number. Again, this is from the Mark II registry, and I want to give all credit to them for what you're seeing here, except for that first page was from the website I listed then, I mentioned then. But I want to talk about engine number now. Now here you can kind of see engine numbers are kind of hard to get pictures of, but I can't really make that one out, to be honest with you. But 20, well, anyway, it's not important. That's not mine. But I want to draw your attention to the last little paragraph here. It says, as a rule of thumb, the engine number on the Mark II is about 982 less than the VIN. However, that number does vary, with early engines being around 988 to 989 less than the VIN. So keep that number in mind, 982. 982 less than the VIN. Okay, my VIN is 3634. Okay. My engine number, this is an actual picture of my engine number, is 2652. And I'll show you the engine number later on in this video. But just, I've got this picture for time being. So anyway, 3634 minus 982 gives us 2652. So that is the correct engine for this car. And it does, it is not locked up, it does turn freely. And as I said, there's only about 3,005, I think is the number that's commonly accepted now among the Mark II registry of Mark IIs ever produced total between the 2 years. 57 was by far the rarest year. Now again, this is a 57. 57 was by far the rarest year. The numbers for it, the most common number you hear is 444. Some say as low as 439. Some say closer to 500 built in, it's 57 models. It's hard to say exactly because of that. But just keep that in mind. But this is, the 57 is by far the rarest of the 2 years, and all of them together, pre-production and post and production cars all combined, I think it's 3,005. And I think I've got this here on this page. Let's check this out. But let's go ahead and check out this information on this car here. There's my VIN number. This is from the directory, the Mark II directory. Production order number, 3045, engine number. Now, the engine number is 2652. I'm not submitting that as evidence that this is the correct engine number. I gave them this information that the engine number was 2652 in full disclosure. I'm not using this as to say that this is the original engine. I've already provided the proof, on the last page where I was talking about 982 is the number difference, and that's what we're looking at. But I provided the registry with this information about the engine number, so they didn't previously have this on file, so I'm not counting that as a way to prove authenticity. What I've already shown you is my proof of authenticity, rather. You see the special charge for Lucite, white Lucite DuPont. Other information, you got your deep gray leather seat biscuits, white leather seat bolsters with deep gray wheels. Special charge for white Lucite DuPont, tinted glass, air conditioning. And this is something else that I printed out that I actually added to this page. It was from a different page on the Mark II registry. And I thought this would be of interest. How can I determine what a car's number was in production sequence? You skip down here to the bottom, determine the regular production car sequence, subtract 984 from the car's VIN. example, car number 1001, subtract 984, and you would get 17, which makes it the 17th Mark II manufactured. Now in my case, 3634 minus 984 means this would be the 2,650th Mark II built out of 3,005 total of pre-production and regular production cars. And that's all I have here to show you. Now I do have, this is an original brochure for the Mark II. Ford Motor Company proudly presents the Continental Mark II. And a Continental Mark II technical data book. It's basically a shop manual. Believed to be original. The copyright is 1955. Price $5. And if you know anything about shop manuals, one that would be as in depth as this is, you know that these are not cheap. New, this would not be $5 anytime in recent years. I'll tell you that right now. So I can believe this was original around the time the Mark II was produced. You know, likely kept it. You know, it's let's see what the. Yeah, copyright Ford Motor Company. So this is likely used in dealerships for service applications on Mark IIs. So the brochure here and the shop manual are included with the car. You will be receiving these with the car. Now here, I want to show you a little bit about the interior. You have the Town and Country radio. You have the, now, it's missing the latch for the glove box, but I do believe I have that. I do have a lot of the parts that are missing off this car, but I'll show you the extra parts I have later on in this video series. But the seats, let's go to the back seat first. Again, I'd say the seats are about a 9 out of 10, given their age. The rest of the interior, maybe an 8 out of 10. You know, you've got some chrome that's pitting and stuff like that, needs to be cleaned up. Or here's the sun visor. And passenger sun visor with mirror. Now the rear view mirror here has some issues here. You can kind of see this isn't actually cracked, this is smooth, but there's something damaged inside. It's going to need to be most likely replaced. Let's see, one thing I want to show you, now here's the actual VIN tag. I've been showing you pictures of it, but that's the actual VIN tag. One thing I want to show you that I found interesting, as you can see, it's less than 22,000 miles, as I've already shown you. But here's something I found on the inside door jamb here. the camera steady. This looks like 320, 326, I'm not sure. 71. Mileage 13,000 something 62. 13,000 something 632. I'm not sure what that reads, but somewhere around 13,000 miles, over 13,000 miles in 1971. So that tells you, it gives you a little bit of information here as far as the life of the car. You know, it had 13,000 miles on it between 57 and 71, and then had, you know, say less than 9,000 miles put on it since then. So that's kind of interesting. Now here, I did actually look this up. It doesn't have an address, but it has the intersection of where this downtown Shell service plaza was located. And I looked up this intersection, and guess where it is? West Palm Beach, Florida. Now, if you're paying attention, the car was sold at Lowell Halley Lincoln Mercury in West Palm Beach, Florida. So the car, we can pretty much account from 57 to 71 that the car pretty much stayed in that area. So that is interesting. As I said, this car has kind of been tucked away off the radar for years. And so kind of piecing together this car's history is kind of interesting to me. Now this is where the window switch went for this rear quarter window here. I'm not sure if I have that switch or not, to be honest with you, but we'll, as I said, we'll go through the my extra parts I have later. And I'll go over to the passenger side and show the interior from there. Now you do have some chrome peeling here in the door jambs. And needs cleaning. Everything here needs, see, you look right here, this just cleans up pretty easy. And some pitting here and whatnot. Let's see, I want to get a shot of this. Here's the these look like factory floor mats. No, that's part of the carpeting, excuse me. That's how the carpet was made there. And you've got some, see, it needs cleaning, like I said. This may be a stain, I'm not sure, but overall the seats are, for their age, are just remarkable. And I want to show you here, last thing I want to show you is some issues with the roof from inside the car. I'm showing the passenger side right now. I'll show you the roof is the biggest issue with this car, I would have to say. Here it feels kind of rough, like it may be bubbling up underneath. Some rust here. So we'll cover that when I get to the body here in just a moment. As far as finishing up here in the interior, here's the Town and Country radio, the air conditioning controls. I think that's just about everything I've covered. You can kind of see the condition overall. This has some waves in it, but it shouldn't be too hard to get all that back to right. Either recover it or maybe even some way of heating it. I'm not sure. But anyway, I'll see you again shortly when we go over the body. I just want to cover one more thing that I missed here. Was meaning to cover. This is one thing that I'm not sure is original to the car. This is original, I believe. These two toggle switches, I'm not sure what they do, and I'm not sure they're original to the car. As I said, this car is unmolested. I would say it's probably about 95% original, 95% complete, if I had to put numbers on it. But these switches, I'm not exactly sure what they do or what they did. And I'm not sure if they're original. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. Again, I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm trying to bring everything to the attention of any potential buyer. But I want to quickly cover that, just to bring your attention to it. And anyway, we'll move on to the body now. Welcome back. And now I want to show you the body of this car. And if someone were to ask me what the single biggest issue on this car was, I would have to say easily it's the roof. The roof has rust damage. As I understand it, the car was kept under a tarp at one time, and the tarp either ripped or blew off part of the car. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but the end result is we have rust in the roof. We have here, if you can see it, I'm getting glare on my end, so hopefully this picks up. But what appears to be lead body filler here in the roof. I'm not sure when that was done. Obviously lead is not used very often anymore. It was either done years ago or by somebody who had the skills to do that, more recently. But as I said, a lot of body men these days don't know how to use lead, don't use it. We have that here on the passenger side too. Again, we got rust up here. But there are options. And as of today, the day I'm making this video and taking the pictures for the auction, it's March 22nd, 2018. And I know of a dealer down in Florida, reputable dealer, you might know the name if I mentioned it, who is selling a complete top from a Mark II. It's got the A-pillar in it. Got quite a bit here included in it, what appears to be. Looks to be in very good condition. It was removed from a $72,000 Mark II. Mark II that actually sold for $72,000 while the roof was still on it. The individual that bought that $72,000 Mark II decided to convert it into a convertible, and so the top was removed, and this company ended up buying it to sell to someone who needs it. So if you want to put this thing back to original, that would be, in my opinion, the easiest way to do it. They're selling the top for just under $700. And again, they're out of Florida if you're interested. And I can give you the details on that. I've not spoken to them. I'm not getting any kickback from saying this. I'm just trying to show you there are options out there. The other somewhat obvious option is, as I mentioned, the person who bought that $72,000 Mark II converted their car to convertible. There are a number of ways to go about that, and you could do this with this one. This would be a prime candidate for that if you were wanting to do that. There were several options back in the day when this car was originally built to have a convertible Mark II, though Ford never officially built one. Ford outsourced to have a convertible built to Durham Coachworks, and they built, as far as I know, they built one convertible. I believe it was a soft top convertible, your typical convertible. I think Hess and Eisenhart, another Coachworks company, built some convertibles back then. I'm not sure if they were actually commissioned by Ford to build them or not. I can't remember off the top of my head. And Ford themselves put millions of dollars in R&D into building a hardtop retractable convertible. That would probably be the trickiest way to go, but it might be the most interesting way to go if you were wanting to build a convertible. I will say that there is some information on there on the retractable hardtop program from Ford back in the day. They never ended up using it. By the time they got it kind of perfected, they were already canceling the Mark II program, because Ford lost $1,000 on every Mark II sold. And as it was, this was a halo car. It was a car not to make money so much as to show the power, the authority of the Ford brand and the Lincoln brand and everything underneath the Continental brand. It was to show that Ford could build a car to compete with Bentley and Rolls and the best in the world and succeed at it. And they did. They proved their point. And the other thing with the Halo car was it was sold at Lincoln Mercury dealerships, and it would bring people in off the street. You know, this was an exotic car in its day. I mean, you can imagine the Rolls-Royce today would bring a lot of gawkers into the dealership. And so this was pretty exotic, you know, and it would bring people into the dealership, and then they might sell them, say, a Lincoln Premier. They couldn't afford this car. Not many people could. But say the person couldn't afford this car, they would sell them a Lincoln Premier. Or I think the Lincoln Premier was around $5,000. It was around half the price, I believe, of the Mark II, and which was expensive in its own right. But you know, they could sell them a Premier or a Capri. I know they were still building a Capri in '56. I'm not sure if they were still building it in '57. I don't remember exactly. Anyway, I'm getting a bit off topic here. What I was meaning to say, as far as the top, the price of the car was going to increase so with the convertible option, and also Ford was ready to quit building these because they were losing $1,000 on every car sold, and that's in 1956 and 1957 money, so you can imagine what $1,000 would be today. But they had all this money in R&D to build this, so they ended up putting it on the Ford Fairlane Skyliner. And if you've ever seen one of the retractable tops on the Fairlanes, that technology came from the Mark II program. So that's just a little bit of information for you about that as far as the retractable hardtop. As I said, the soft top would be the easiest way to go if you want to convert to a convertible. I've seen the Durham car, pictures of it, looked very nice. And I've seen others that have been done over the years that look very nice. And of course, as I said, you can get a roof for this car right now for a little under $700. Now, moving on, you do have rust. There is a bit of rust on this car. Most of it is surface rust. As I said, this car has been sitting. It does appear to have some lead filler here in this fin right above the driver's tail light. While I'm at the driver's tail light, I'll show you the gas door. This is how you put gas in it. It has a tilt-away tail light. The chrome shines pretty well. Could use a cleaning. Does have some. There's a dent here in this back bumper. Looks like there's another small dent here. Again, in the back bumper. There are some small scratches in the chrome, you might expect. There's some pitting in this rear tail light here. Again, it needs a good cleaning. The car needs a really good cleaning. And again, I think these are if you can tell, the paint colors are a little bit different between the wheel and the body. And I believe these wheels are still the white Lucite DuPont paint. I could be wrong, but that's just a guess on my part. Now, you've got some rust here. It's paint bubbling and whatnot. It's not, I don't see any holes. And I can't tell if the metal's real soft here, pushing from behind, but that will need some attention. You've got rust here. You've got paint bubbling here underneath the roof. And of course, this is still part of the roof here that's got some issues. The trim, the chrome or stainless trim here around the windows, it's in pretty good condition. Now the windows are cracked, some of them. This passenger side window, if you can see, has a crack in it, or appears to have a crack. It's a kind of a shallow looking crack. The back window on the passenger side does not appear to have any cracks. The front quarter window on the passenger side does not appear to have any cracks. Has some tint peeling here a little bit. The windshield I don't believe has any cracks. I haven't seen any. We'll get around to the glass on the other side. I'm going to finish my lap around the car. You do have, I think I showed this a little bit ago, a little bit of a hole here at the top of the door. Shouldn't be too hard to repair. These doors are heavy. Heavy metal. You've got a lot to work with there. And you got paint peeling up and rust here. That's not a hole. Surface rust here. Some rust staining down here on the, like right here. That's rust staining in the paint. It'll need a repaint anyway. As I said, the paint is it wasn't a very high quality repaint in my opinion. You got rust coming up here on the fender. Again, it doesn't look too serious, but it will need to be addressed. You've got the Mark II, Continental Mark II emblem here. Got rust bubbling up here in the paint. Fender's pretty good, following it up this way as far as that, other than what I've shown you. You got a crack in the paint here. Again, here's another wheel. Obviously you'll need new tires, that goes without saying. Chrome on the front is pretty good. It's got some scratches in the chrome and whatnot. It's not perfect, but it's not a bad starting point. Now there's a dent in the chrome on this front bumper somewhere. Oh, here it is. This is you can see this is the very bottom passenger side front corner. See, this is all reflection in the bumper here, but this you can see here it's a bit of a dent, and obviously a kind of a large scrape there. These bumper guards are going to need some work. These look like they were chrome plated, and the plating has come off. I do believe these are separate from the bumper itself. I think you can remove those, but they will need some attention. This chrome here needs to be cleaned better. There are some scratches and scrapes in the chrome, but it's a lot better shape than some I've seen. I don't know if that's going to come through in video as well, but and I should have that chrome piece that goes across the front of the hood here, which I will get to address this hood here in a moment too. I do know these cars have a nameplate that runs across the front, individual letters spelling out Continental. I do have all of those letters. I'll show you that later on. As for the hood's in pretty good shape on up until you get up here. It's running across the top of the grill, and it obviously has rust holes. It's gonna need some attention there. You could find a new hood, or you could repair that. If you've got body work experience, it's just something you would have to kind of decide how you want to do that. But as far as the rest of the hood, I believe it may have some. Here's a small surface rust spot on the back of the hood. I think it may have some surface rust underneath the hood. We'll show that here in a little bit when I show the engine bay. But I think I think that, you know, that I think it could be fixed. But you know, it just depends on how you want to do that. Just moving along. Chrome going into the driver's fender. There's no rust at the front. Now we get to right behind the wheel well. This emblem is damaged. It's staying on, but it kind of, this overlay here kind of flops around. Now you do have the metal getting soft here. The hole doesn't go all the way through the metal, but the metal is soft. It doesn't feel very soft, but we'll say it's soft, just for sake of argument, because it could be. Yeah, it could be. Here's the bottom of the driver's door. You've got the paint peeling here, and some rust. You've got rust here on the cowl. A bit of rust here under the mirror on the door. Again, surface rust. Rust here at the bottom of the back corner of the door. You've got some paint peeling all around the bottom of the door, but some of it doesn't look too serious. Here's the bottom. The rear quarter panel in front of the back tire needs a little repair work here. Again, I can't tell that it's soft, but we'll call it soft. I mean, it doesn't look very good right there. Now it's for the glass. The back windshield, I don't see any cracks in it. Here, the rear quarter window, there is a crack in it. There's a crack here in the driver's window. The serious crack is, if you can see, I've got it taped up right here, but it's a pretty serious crack all around here in the driver's main window. The front quarter window for the driver's side, I don't see any cracks. Again, some tint peeling and stuff like that. Anyway, that's all for the body, I think, just about. And there is a hole here underneath. I forgot to mention, underneath this tape. Again, that's the roof. So, as I said, the roof needs to be replaced or removed or repaired if you can repair it. Now, with that being said, I'm going to move along to the underhood. So, if you'll join me in just a minute. Welcome back. And here we are under the hood now. Everything under here is mostly complete. Now, the steering box is missing the top piece here. I believe I have that, and it will be included with the car. If I do, I'll go through the parts that I have to include with the car here in a little bit, and I'll be able to confirm that if I do or do not have that. I can't see the condition of the steering system. I can't see the condition of the brakes or the fuel lines. I imagine you'll need to go through the brakes and fuel lines. And maybe the steering. The engine is not locked up. It's the original engine of the car, numbers matching. Let's see. This is the 57 model. It has 300 horsepower. It was rated at 300 horsepower from the factory versus the 1956 model, which is rated at 285. The difference is the 57 model had higher compression, and it had a Carter carburetor, which I believe replaced a Holley. I believe there was a Holley on the 56 model. Either way, this one has a Carter carburetor. Let's see. I mean, you can see under here, this is, you know, it's an unmolested car. It doesn't look like it's been very, you know, modified or monkeyed around with too much, you know, in any way. And these engines, this is a 368 cubic inch, what started as a Lincoln V8. These engines were for the Mark II, again the Mark II being such a high-end halo car. Not just any engine would do. They started with a Lincoln engine, which again, a Lincoln to begin with, obviously a Lincoln, it was an expensive high-end car in its own right. But that was not good enough for the Mark II. They pulled these 368 cubic inch Lincoln engines from the Lincoln line. They disassembled them, went through them, torqued everything to spec by hand. Factory, in essence, it's a factory blueprinted car. Very well balanced to the, you know, the extreme standards. They reassembled it, and it was each engine was dynoed, some say multiple times, before it was installed in the car and left the factory. And even then, once it was installed in the car, each car was subjected to road tests before it left the factory and was shipped to dealers. And on that note, it was shipped in fleece lined covers to the dealers. Very, as I said, very high-end stuff here. Now let me see if I can get this camera to pick up. You see the 26 there of the engine number. I don't know what angle to put this at. I want to pick it up on this video, but if not, I'll just have to take a picture. Now you see the 2652. Can you see that? Sorry, my hand's shaking. It's an awkward angle. $26.52. And again, I have a copy of the paperwork from the Mark II registry that I showed you in the interior earlier. Rule of thumb, engine number Mark II should be a 982 less than the VIN. VIN's 3634. 3634 minus 982 is the 2652 here that we're showing. So that is the exact number it should be to be a matching numbers car. I do have the battery tie down. It's in the trunk. I'll show you that later. The exhaust on these cars, if you're not familiar, they're run through the body and run out the bumper. On this car, it has been moved to underneath the bumper. Again, the exhaust will most likely need to be replaced as well, but the exhaust was run underneath the bumper because it would cause oxidation on the bumper, on the chrome, a lot of times if you, you know, the exhaust coming out there. So a lot of people did move those over the years. Excuse me for that. I must have hit something wrong. I don't know how that happened. But anyway, I was going to show you the transmission fluid. It should be, see, it doesn't look burnt at all. Obviously, I would replace that. You know, once you start getting the car on the road. But for now, you know, just to kind of give you an idea what the transmission might be like, the transmission fluid does look healthy. Obviously, all the fluids you're going to want to replace. You may want to go through the engine. You may not. I don't know that you would need to, but you may want to. Just, you know, that's your prerogative. Once you have the car, just how far you want to go into tearing it down. Here's the engine oil. See, obviously it's pretty black. It's been sitting for quite some time. Obviously you're going to want to replace that, but you would want to anyway. I don't know any car that would have been sitting for as long as this car has that would not. You wouldn't want to change the oil in first thing. Now this car does have, I don't know if this is a factory marking or what this is, but it does have a 2, or what appears to be a 2 on the firewall. I don't know what that is, but you know, a lot of these cars, you know, a lot of cars you see would have factory markings like that from the factory. And I don't know if that's still there from the factory or if that was put there later. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. So take that as what it is. Now the underside of the hood is in pretty good condition. Obviously the hood liner needs to be replaced. And obviously I've shown you hood from the outside. And this is the inside of that bad area. What else? This line here has been taped up a little bit. That'll need to be replaced. You'll have things like that, you know. But I'm trying to cover everything I see that I can. One other thing I wanted to mention, as far as the quality of these cars, as I said, they were just, Ford was all about quality and building something that the world had never seen before. The car was debuted at Paris, at the Paris Auto Show in 1955. I believe October of 55, if I remember correctly. Instead of, you know, the Detroit Motor Show or New York or whatnot, this was released at released at Paris to kind of show that this was here to compete with the high-end European, the Bentleys, the Rolls-Royce, whatnot. And the steel that was used on this car was hand selected from the supplier prior to being shipped to the production plant. They hand-picked the quality of steel they wanted. They hand-picked the steel for these cars. The leather is from Bridge of Weir in Scotland, which is notorious for building, or known, I shouldn't say notorious, they're well known for building very high-end leather. Some of your exotics or your more expensive cars out there would use Bridge of Weir leather. It's very well known, very expensive. If I'm not mistaken, the cows that the bulls that the leather comes from are free roam. They don't use, or what I mean is they don't have, they don't use barbed wire to fence them in because they don't want any imperfections on the leather. It's a very, they're very thorough, and you can see that. I mean, you can see that by the condition of this leather in this car, as I've shown you before. The leather is in remarkable shape for its age. But of course, as I said, it's less than 22,000 miles, so that's also played a key part in keeping the leather in the condition it's in, I'm sure. Anyway, I guess we're done here under the hood, and we'll move to the trunk here in a moment. Alright, I just want to make a quick little video to add on to the video for the engine bay, demonstrating that the engine does turn over by hand. It's not locked up. So if we kind of see this, alright, hopefully that's enough to kind of show you. Now I kept hitting my hand on the engine fan there, obviously. It's easier, kind of easier to do if you get enough clearance underneath the car for obvious reasons, but it's kind of easier to show you from the top. But anyway, the engine is not locked up, and I just wanted to demonstrate that so you don't have to take my word for it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Now here we are at the trunk. One thing you'll notice is the emblem here needs to be refinished. The the knight's head here is a bit tarnished, and there is some pitting on the chrome and whatnot in the coat of arms. Now, apologize for having to make a weird camera angle there, but I have to hold this trunk up because it's kind of sprung. It doesn't hold itself up at the moment. You're going to need all new weather stripping and whatnot. The carpet in the trunk has seen better days. There's the battery tie down I mentioned earlier. Has a factory jack. It's going to need to be cleaned up and everything. Hopefully this is picking up better. It does have the original tire cover, spare tire cover. Hold on just 1 second. Here's the spare. Again, I think the wheels probably still have the original paint on them. Again, I can't be sure, but I do have this piece here that goes over the lock, and there's a little light in there. Again, I'll show you all the extra pieces I have. And let me move this out of the way and I'll show you something on the trunk cover, or the spare tire cover here. Now, I don't know if this was, hope this is picking up. Here, it's better. I don't know if this was from the factory this way, how old this is. I can't even tell what it reads. But it looks like an S at the end, or an 8. I'm not sure what that 008 or something ASOS. I'm not sure. But I found that interesting on the inside of the spare tire cover. The spare tire cover itself will need to be stitched back up all around the zipper. But again, I don't know how what this bit of signature or markings or whatever, what the source of that is. It kind of reminded me of May, if you're familiar with the Mark II Custom that sold at Barrett Jackson for around $200,000 last year. I think it was last year. It was a show car, custom show car, but they call it May because when they were working on the car in the trunk, they came across a May West signature from some time back in the day, and nobody could explain why, but that was kind of interesting. And when I found that, this kind of reminded me of that. Obviously this could be anything, but I wanted to show you that, just kind of a piece of interest. And I think that about covers the trunk. As far as the floors, as I said, the carpet's bad. I don't have any evidence that the floor pans need replacing in the trunk, but for sake of argument, we'll say they do. Just, you know, I don't want to oversell and underdeliver. I'd rather undersell and overdeliver, if that makes sense. That's how I always try to do things. So we'll say that maybe the trunk pans need replacing. Just take that for what it's worth. But anyway, I think we're done with the trunk. And next we'll go underneath the car and check out some things. And welcome back. Now I'm going to make a video of the frame. Everything I've seen of the frame and underneath is solid. Obviously it has surface rust, as you would expect from a car of this age. But I want to go through and kind of show you the frame is solid. I've actually got a little bit of a hammer here. I apologize if this is poorly shot. But it should give you kind of a general idea. Again, I can't see everywhere I'm shooting here, so if I'm shooting something random, I apologize. Alright, let's move along to the side. cross member piece. Now there's it's got a center spine piece. I can't get to that to do the hammer test on it. Again, I know I'm getting some strange angles here. Alright, welcome back once again. I want to show you the spare parts I've mentioned throughout the video series. I guess we'll start here with the nameplate for the front of the car. Here's C O N T I N E N T A and L. Now L is missing. Let's compare it to this I here. L is missing the mounting tab here. So I do have the L, but it does need some repair. And here's some of the mounting screws and bolts, whatever, it come with all that. So there's that's out of the way. Here is the chrome piece. These are two pieces here that go above the grill, where let me go ahead and show you that real quick. See where this ends right here, and it goes, one of them goes to here and the other one takes it from here and goes back. and meets up back here on this side. These are for the roof, I believe. These two chrome pieces. Some of them are kind of bent. These two over here, these smaller ones, are also, I believe, for the roof. Again, some of them are kind of bent. This is the piece that goes inside the trunk lid that has the light on it, that I pointed out earlier that was missing. I do have it. It needs some repair here, but up at the top, this should be fairly easy to fabricate a new one with having these the lens and everything and still here, and kind of a loose template to go by here. This appears to be the top of that steering box that's missing under the hood that I showed you earlier. It's got a little bit of a gasket here and some bolts that go with that. Here's some screws. I'm not sure where they came from. Probably some of these trim pieces. I can't read that. Here is the glove box latch that I mentioned in the interior. Here is a ashtray. Now those are the two. That's the brochure and the shop manual that I showed you earlier. I'm not going to go through that again right now. Here's the hubcaps. Full set of hubcaps. Overall good condition. Probably 9 out of 10. I think it's this one. Yeah, this one on the end has a scrape right here. It's not very deep. It's not terribly noticeable. They are, some of these are a little bit rough around the edges here. But they're not in bad condition. You know what these things go for. The hubcaps alone are not cheap. So these are in pretty good shape. Now, another little bit of trivia. These fins, these hubcaps were hand built. These fins were individually bolted in. I'll show you. Here's what one looks like on the underneath of it. This wind, hold on a second. Okay. Now there's the second hubcap. Again, they need cleaning up. It's like a lot of the car does. It needs cleaning up, but these overall, I would say, are in very good condition. Besides what I've shown you, that one is the only one that's really got any kind of issues with it that I can see that are kind of something. The worst kind of issue with it, the rest of these are in better shape than that one, is what I'm trying to say. I'm sorry, my concentration's a little off because everything's about to blow away here. Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you feel so inclined, please go back to eBay and put in your best bid. I do have a low reserve on the car for what it is. I know it's a project car, it needs restoration. I do have a clean and clear title in my name, North Carolina title. Title in hand, ready to be signed over to the winning bidder. And so yeah, go, if you're interested, go back to eBay, bid what you think the car is worth, and we'll see how things go. We'll talk to the winner and get that title signed over and get to pick up your car. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later.